Have you ever wondered what would be the worst time to be alive, when the term worst year ever might seem like an exaggeration, especially in a world where it's often used to express minor frustrations, like a disappointing movie or a bad day at work? However, for historians and scientists who have studied the long arc of human history, one year stands out as truly deserving of that title: the year 536 AD. This year, shrouded in darkness and marked by widespread suffering, is now recognized as one of the most devastating in recorded history, with effects that rippled through the decades that followed. But before we further, take a moment to subscribe to Historical Sage so you don't miss on our future video. Our understanding of why 536 was so catastrophic comes from a combination of ancient historical accounts and modern scientific research. For a long time, the eerie descriptions of a year without sunlight, mentioned by Byzantine historian Procopius and others, were thought to be exaggerated or symbolic. Procopius, while serving as a military advisor, observed a strange phenomenon. The sun, he wrote, gave forth its light without brightness, almost as if it were in a constant state of eclipse. This was not a poetic metaphor, but a literal description of the world plunging into darkness. It wasn't until the late 20th and early 21st centuries that scientists began to uncover the reasons behind these reports. Through the study of tree rings, dendrochronology, scientists like Ulf Bunchen discovered a significant and sudden cooling event in 536 AD. The tree rings showed a sharp decline in growth, indicating a drastic drop in temperatures. This was confirmed by ice core samples taken from glaciers in Switzerland by researchers like Michael McCormick and Paul Majewski, who found evidence of volcanic ash dating back to the same year. This ash likely originated from a massive volcanic eruption in Iceland, which sent clouds of debris into the atmosphere, blocking out the sun and causing temperatures to plummet across the northern hemisphere. The eruption, likely from a volcano in Iceland, spewed vast amounts of ash into the atmosphere, creating a veil that blocked out the sun and led to what is now known as a volcanic winter. The temperature dropped by as much as 1.6 to 2.5 degrees Celsius, causing summers to become cold and crops to fail. In places like China, historical records, such as those from the Nanshi Chronicle, reported that summer snow fell and crops were destroyed, leading to widespread famine. In Europe, similar conditions were recorded, with Procopius and others noting that the sun appeared dim and bluish, and the seasons seemed out of order. The effects of the volcanic winter were devastating. Without sunlight, crops across the northern hemisphere failed, leading to widespread famine. In Ireland, for instance, the famine was so severe that it became known as bread failure. The Byzantine Empire, despite its resources, struggled to feed its population. Although food was stored in granaries, these reserves were quickly depleted, and the empire was soon facing starvation. As if the volcanic winter and famine were not enough, the year 536 marked the beginning of a period of intense suffering that would last for decades. In 541 AD, the first outbreak of what would later be known as the Justinian Plague struck the Byzantine Empire. This plague, which spread rapidly through the empire's extensive trade networks, decimated the population. The plague began with sores on the hands, which then progressed to painful swelling and the formation of buboes, eventually leading to death. The disease killed an estimated 50 million people, wiping out between 1/3 and 1/2 of the population in some regions. Even the Emperor Justinian himself contracted the disease, though he survived. The plague only compounded the misery caused by the volcanic winter. In the Byzantine Empire, the combination of famine and disease led to social and economic collapse. The empire, already weakened by war and internal strife, struggled to maintain control over its territories. In Persia, the Sasanian Empire faced similar challenges, with internal revolts and external threats pushing the empire to the brink. In China, The Northern Wei dynasty was destabilized by the harsh conditions, leading to widespread social unrest and eventual collapse. In fact, all the major civilizations shattered across the globe. There was a limited food supply, new food couldn't be grown, and to top all of that, there was no vitamin D, killing almost 30% of the world's population in that same year, and moving more due to diseases that spread for the next decade. Despite these overwhelming challenges, humanity found ways to survive. Communities banded together, sharing resources and knowledge. In some regions, governments took action to redistribute land and food, helping to stabilize the population. The Byzantine Empire, after the immediate effects of the volcanic winter and plague subsided, went on massive reconstruction project. These efforts included revitalizing agriculture by introducing new farming techniques and encouraging the repopulation of devastated areas. Religious and superstitious beliefs also played a role in how people coped, with many interpreting the events as divine punishment, leading to an increase in religious observance and acts of penance. And people were incentivized by kings to reproduce rapidly to increase the human population. The recovery was slow, and the scars of the 536 disaster were felt for decades. However, by the end of the 6th century, many of the affected civilizations had begun to regain some sense of normalcy. The lessons learned during this period of extreme hardship shaped the future of these societies, influencing everything from agriculture to governance and religious practices. It was during these times of hardship that the seeds of future resilience were sown. As conditions slowly improved, populations began to recover, and with them, the economies of the affected regions. The return of sunlight allowed agriculture to resume, though it took years for crop yields to reach their pre-disaster levels. In Europe, the reappearance of lead in ice core samples, a sign of renewed silver mining and coin production, indicated the gradual recovery of economic activities. This period marked the beginning of the end of the so-called Dark Ages and the slow re-emergence of European civilization. Similarly, in the East, the Chinese dynasties began to recover and rebuild, laying the foundations for the Sui and Tang dynasties, which would eventually usher in a new era of prosperity and cultural achievement. The lessons learned from the disasters of 536 AD influenced how these civilizations approached governance, agriculture, and public health, leading to innovations that would help them avoid or mitigate similar catastrophes in the future. The story of 536 AD is not just a disaster, but a story of resilience. It was a year that could have marked the end for many civilizations, yet it became a turning point that ultimately strengthened them. The darkness and suffering of that time were met with innovation, cooperation, and an indomitable will to survive. As we look back on that year with the benefit of modern science and historical analysis, we gain a deeper appreciation for the endurance of our ancestors and the impact that natural disasters can have on the course of human history. The events of 536 AD may have been the worst in human history, but they also serve as a powerful reminder of humanity's capacity to endure, adapt, and rebuild in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. The resilience displayed by the people of that time set the stage for the eventual recovery and growth of their civilizations, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire us today. The year 536 stands as a testament to the strength and perseverance of the human spirit, showing that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a better future. Now, before leaving, check this video popping on the screen. You must not miss this one.